Okay, so let's talk about some of your experience with cycling and your profession, which is chiropractic. Um, so, in your experience with, do you work with some people who a lot of cyclists who also need adjustments? I mean, what's some of your experience there with some common things people experience with cycling and adjustments?
Well, I'm really just getting into seeing how it fits together. Our kids have been runners in high school. They've been
Yeah,
run cross country and track, and so that kind of got me interested in well, that and our past in disc golf got me interested in like there are all these sports that have repetitive motions in there, and that's a huge component in how people's bodies wear out is
it
repetitive
is. It
motions,
really
whatever
is.
they are.
Yeah.
So. I have, over the last just 3 years, started to think, okay, well, if he comes home with a problem with his knee, that seems to be the most common thing, at least for the two of us, is
Right.
knees. So, okay, well, what are we doing while we're on the bike that's making that happen? So, what bit of motion is not working the way that it should? Is it a joint? Is it a muscle? Is it a series of things? Because every time that you do that pedal stroke, it's not just it's multiple joints that are moving, and it's a specific chain reaction through muscles and things. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, where's the disconnect? Where's the malfunction in that or the dysfunction in that that's causing that to be a problem? So, for him, he came home one day and was having a lot of knee pain. Like, I can't finish my ride, comes and picks me up, knee pain.
Oh wow.
And so we looked into that a little bit, and his solution at that time was just he had to move his clips on his pedals.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes it's not going to be so simple. Sometimes it is. So I always feel like I look at things anytime that I'm looking at a new patient. It's like this puzzle. I like puzzles. Okay. I'm
Sure.
kind of nerdy.
Everybody
I
loves
love puzzles.
puzzles.
And so, so I look at it and I, do an exam, and you put all these pieces together, and you're like, okay, so this should be working, and this should be doing that, and this should be doing this. So
Right.
how can we figure out which thing is the thing that's causing the problem?
Huh. So you mentioned a term there just a minute ago, repetitive motion. Could you, because maybe some people don't know, and I probably don't know as much as I should, but what is it about? Because like when I think of, so if you go to the gym and you're doing a lift or you're doing a movement, you feel something pop or hurt or whatever, you might have an injury in your shoulder or something like that if you pull a muscle, but maybe people don't think about as much about what repetitive motion injuries really are and how that can actually happen. Can you want to talk about maybe how that actually works? Because that is very common in cycling. It's something worth
Yeah.
being aware of.
Well, when you have something that has its root in a motion that you keep doing over and over, for example, painters will get shoulder injuries,
Hmm.
or baseball players get shoulders and elbows, because it's the same thing over and over, which um, you can get imbalances in the muscles that do opposite motions. So like when I do this, my tricep is contracting, my bicep has to relax, right?
Right.
And so if I'm doing a motion over and over and over, then it can be one part of that joint or whatever piece you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
can get overworked while other things get stretched out, and then you get this
Okay.
effect where they just get out of balance, right?
Right.
So repetitive motion is just what it sounds like. I'm doing the same thing again and again and again. So that in itself can cause a problem, but also if you have a little piece of that, because our bodies are really great at adapting
Mm-hmm.
and overcoming little things for a certain length of time. But at some point, if you have a little thing that's not working quite right, and your body keeps adapting and keeps trying to, let me just make this work, well, eventually that's going to cause a problem. Eventually something is going to wear out
Mm-hmm.
because you're causing it to do either a motion that it really shouldn't, like just has this little tweak, or it's not able to glide through its normal range.
Right.
So kind of lost my train of thought there.
That's all right. You were just saying you have repetitive motion. You're doing so as an example. So to talk about like the example that you use. So if you're using your bicep and your tricep, So say you're pushing, but then you're just kind of pulling your arm back in. You're doing a lot of work here, so your triceps working really hard, but maybe you're just bringing your arm back in. So your bicep isn't doing as much work, but your triceps working really hard. So because of that, your triceps going to get really tight, really strong, and really stiff, whereas your bicep might actually get kind of loose, and that's going to generate an imbalance. Is that kind of the example what you're describing?
Yeah, and when you get down to into a specific joint area, motion is good. Like motion is life for joints. So if
Right.
you're not, I mean, that's one of the things that I do like about bicycling is that it's a great way to have smooth motion. I think it's a great way when I'm out on the trail and I see older people who might be on an e-bike, and I think that's so great because they're going to continue to function. They're going to continue to feel good so much longer because they're just getting out and they're using their body.
Right.
So
That's interesting because, like, I've noticed the more I cycle, like actually the looser my knees and like my hips and my quads and everything like get. So the more I do good cycling, the more flexible I am. Whereas if I stop cycling, I actually start to get tighter. Just because, like you say, you're actually moving those joints through that motion, and so it's helping them kind of practice that movement, I suppose. Is it kind of accurate? Am I saying that correctly? Or
yeah, and then a lot of your joints have this fluid around them, and that helps them to stay nice and lubricated. Like you're going to put oil or grease on your chain, right? It's going to eventually. You have to continue to do that to make sure that it stays in good condition. So similar with a lot of our joints, like the knees, for example. I find the first time that I ever had knee pain, I was in high school. I was walking, I can't remember if I was going up or down the stairs. But anyway, I was walking on these stairs and my knee just gave out on me. And I was like, oh, crap, what was that? And so now at 45, I have knee pain. But I find that in the summertime, because I'm not a cold, you're not going to find me out on the trail.
understand.
Unless it's a nice day, I'll go out as long as it's okay.
Right.
But I find that during the summertime, my knees do feel so much better because I'm using for me particularly, my glutes are not as consistently strong as they should be, and so when I'm using those in the summertime, that brings much more stability to my knees. So, I think bicycling is an excellent way to stay active and fit.
Because it's interesting to hear you say that, because, one of the things that I heard from you there that maybe I don't even think about as much is you're kind of almost talking about, it's not so much the working the muscles really hard that's actually making your body more healthy. It's just going through the motions. It's the movement and the actual going. So, like, it's not that you're getting out on your bike and you're just going full throttle hard as you can to try to beat some time or something like that. It's just that you're getting out and you're spending time going through those motions, and that in and of itself, just doing that actually helps your body have more balance, have more and to be more flexible. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people think that to go out and get exercise means this really like heavy and I'm exhausted and I'm all sweaty and gross.
Yeah.
But really, the way that our body responds, you can affect your aging process just by going out and walking or having a bike ride. You want to get your heart rate up a little bit, but a lot of people, I think, probably are exercising beyond what is necessary just for health.
Yeah.
Just for keeping yourself in good condition.
So, you mentioned that, and you had mentioned that you're getting your license. You're working on a license for, is it therapy or physical therapy or something like that?
It's certification is a sports chiropractor.
Sports chiropractor. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked into any of Joe Friel's books by chance?
No. Never heard of it.
He's a really interesting guy, and I don't actually have any of his books up here now, but he's mainly focused on, he does a lot of sports medicine stuff, and the books that he has written are primarily focused on performance. So they're mainly focused on people who are really trying to compete and be really successful in competing. But he does a lot of research. And so it's really interesting because he has basically a 80-20 rule for physical fitness, and that 80% of your exercising should be under your aerobic capacity. So basically, like, for most people, less than 145 to 150 beats per minute. and that's like 80% of your exercising. And then like 20% of it should be hard, like really hard exertive effort. And he said that actually has the best impact on a person's health, from his perspective, from the research that he's done. And it's not actually just going out and pushing yourself as hard as you can for 45 minutes every day. It's actually focusing on really good, concerted, mild to medium efforts, and then really purposeful, hard efforts to go out and to actually have the best impact on your body. Some of his stuff's really interesting. And your husband might actually be interested in his book, The Cyclist's Bible, I want to say it is. I'll have to look it up and I'll send it to you. But he talks about all that stuff, and he spends a lot of time talking about exercise, about stretching, about mobility, about injury prevention and stuff. And he's done cycling, he's done running, he's done swimming. He does all kinds of sports health and performance stuff. He's a pretty interesting guy, so you might find him interesting.